The Cowboys Gamble, Part 6 of 8, Prime Time. Yesterday we left Dallas in the smoke of a shootout. Jimmy Johnson walked out the door at Valley Ranch, Jerry Jones stood in the glow of ownership, and Barry Switzer stepped in to inherit the most talented roster in football. The Cowboys still had the muscle to win, and they would prove it again. But into this fractured kingdom walked a man who didn't just play football. He played identity. Deion Sanders, Prime Time. The name itself tells the story. Prime time isn't just a slot on television, it's the peak, the hour when the most eyes are watching, the moment when the ratings matter most. It's the ego's favorite hour. The ego thrives on lights, attention, audience, and spectacle. To call yourself prime time is to declare that you are the main event. And Deion didn't just accept that name. He embodied it. He walked with gold chains swinging, smile flashing, cameras chasing. He wasn't just fast, he was a blur. He wasn't just talented, he was transcendent. He didn't just lock down receivers, he erased them. And Dallas, already America's team, now had America's showman. It was irresistible. Because the ego doesn't just want to win, it wants to win beautifully. It wants the touchdown to be a highlight, the interception to be a moment, the player to be a brand. And Primetime was brand incarnate. He made football look like theatre. But metaphysically, this arrival meant something deeper. It meant the dynasty was shifting from substance to spectacle, from grit to glitter, from building to branding. The Cowboys had been feared for their discipline and dominance. Now they were adored for their style and stardom. And in that shift, the cracks widened. Deion himself was not the problem. His presence was the symbol. The franchise had moved from the hard climb of hunger to the bright glare of possession. And in possession, the ego demands to shine. Primetime delivered that shine. He returned punts like a magician. He played cornerback like an eraser. He gave Dallas swagger that turned stadiums into stages. But the same charisma that drew cameras also drew shadows. Because where the ego sets up its stage, it must also set up its fall. And the Cowboys, now the most glamorous team in sports, became just as famous for their off-field chaos as for their on-field brilliance. The White House parties escalated. Cocaine, women, excess, scandal, all wrapped in silver and blue. Headlines no longer celebrated just victories, they documented dysfunction. Players became celebrities, celebrities became distractions, and the team that had once clawed its way up by discipline now glided on the fumes of indulgence. But that's what primetime represents, not Deion the man, but prime time the idea. The ego's peak hour. The illusion that being watched, being adored, being cheered is the same as being whole. Dallas chased that illusion with every yard gained and every party thrown. And still, the ache remained. Even in 1995, when the Cowboys won their third Super Bowl in 4 years, the questions never stopped. Was this still Jimmy's team? Was Barry Switzer really a leader, or just a passenger? Was Deion the missing piece, or just the brightest distraction? The truth is, primetime was never about football. It was about the ego's craving for performance. The dynasty was no longer just about championships. It was about being the show. And that is why the fall was already written into the script. Metaphysically, primetime shows us how the ego always takes what is simple and turns it into a spectacle. Love becomes performance. Peace becomes entertainment. Identity becomes a brand. And once you've become a brand, the audience owns you. You are no longer free. The Cowboys had won, but they were no longer playing the same game. They weren't just fighting opponents. They were fighting headlines, cameras, contracts, egos, and indulgence. And no matter how many games they won, it was never enough. Because primetime is not just a player, it's a principle. It's the ego's belief that the spotlight itself is salvation. But salvation cannot be televised. It cannot be performed. It cannot be branded. It simply is. And that is what the Cowboys forgot. They thought they had found wholeness in the flash, but the flash always fades. Tomorrow we turn to the cocaine Cowboys, where the flash collapses into chaos. Because if primetime was the glitter, cocaine Cowboy is the grime. The dynasty that once stood for discipline will now show us what happens when indulgence eats itself alive. And we'll see again what the ego always proves. No matter how high you climb, the hunger does not stop. Only truth ends the hunger.